one thing is that, and that might change in the future, the biggest readership from Thibarmy is likely the guy who just wants to look jacked. Now, of course, you look jacked, so you kind of the message will pass pretty well. But if I'm someone who just want to get jacked, more muscular, why would I take some valuable time away from doing curls to invest in mobility work and activation prior to my workout? Would be the benefits of me if all I want to do is get more muscular and leaner?
It's a fair question.
It is a fair question.
To be honest, the bulk of the people I have worked with has not been people who just want to get jacked, but that's not to say that they shouldn't. Certainly from a strictly rehab perspective, there may be not the people who train just to be jacked or train just for aesthetics, whether it's the dude who goes to the beach club every weekend or the elite bodybuilder, they may not be the most likely client from a rehab perspective because they tend to train with less complex isolation type movement. They tend to have good mind-muscle connection, you know, and they train for symmetry. So they're not as likely to present with the type of compensatory dysfunction we'll find in other people, right?
But is it that they don't have any, or that they don't get to see them because they don't do movements that would showcase those imbalances?
I would say B. So it's not likely, you know, almost everybody has a little something that you can find, and that's what I always used to say is I can always find something in someone, right? So it would be the same thing with people, even though they're not doing complex movement, even though they're doing more isolation, they're still going to have some postural patterns. I'm still going to be able to see someone has rounded shoulders, upper cross syndrome. So it's going to be harder for you to isolate and work the rear delt if you're rounded shoulders,
you
right?
actually bring a point that I want to bring something up, is improving posture, in my opinion, is actually something that will have a great and immediate visual impact on how well you look. I'm gonna give an example about my wife. My wife has rounded shoulders from her gymnastics background. And right now she's training more for muscle building purposes, although she still does CrossFit once in a while. And when she has proper attention to her posture, she looks at least 50% better than if she has a more natural slouched over position. So I would think the one thing is that if you improve posture, automatically you're gonna look better.
Yeah.
So right from the bat. And then you mentioned that if you have better posture, it's going to be easier to recruit some muscles.
Exactly.
Do you have specific examples?
Exactly, because, well, you know, we have facilitation inhibition in postural patterns, right? So you're going to have muscles that are overactive, that are easy to target and isolate and really create a connection with. And the opposing muscles are going to be harder to identify, they're going to be harder to isolate, they're going to be harder to recruit. And that's because of that pattern. So if you use mobility and activation to correct that pattern or to create a window where you have a better length tension relationship, then it's going to be better, it's going to be easier for you to activate those muscles.
Would you say that it's one of the reasons why people have a much harder time building the back muscles? I mean, very rarely you go to the gym and you see all these guys with jacked arms, jacked chest, big shoulders, but they have basically no back. And they do train their back.
Yeah.
They do plenty of volume for their back, but it just seems that they have no back muscles.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a bit a bit of that is from like what you say. If they had just a better posture, automatically their back would probably look better. Would it function better? Maybe not, right? But
it's the first
it would already look better. But being able to have a better balance so that you can better isolate muscles that are typically hard to isolate is key for anyone. So, you know, are you wasting time not doing bicep curls? Well, bicep curls is maybe an easier movement to perform
She
well.
does curls every single day. Every single day.
Once a year.
Once a year.
Yeah. So, you know, take the example of the upper back that we were talking about. So if I create a better posture, if I use mobility and then activation, then I'm going to be able to target that upper back.
So would you have a specific routine that you would repeat every day, or just before the back session, for example? Let's say I'm training my back. Would I have postural exercise? Would I have muscle activation exercise? How would you approach that session?
I would do a little bit of both to answer your question. So if I'm going into a back session, then I would use mobility and activation at the beginning to create my window of opportunity. So I'm gonna hopefully establish a better length tension relationship and be able to feel those muscles more. And then on a needs basis, if I have that kind of posture where I'm rounded, then I'm gonna have mobility that I do every single day, no matter if I'm working my back or not, right?
Well,
So that on the long term, you know,
well,
I
think
can always have a better
frequency
posture.
is the mother of anything
Always.
corrective, right?
Always.
Excellent. We're going to get into more of these topics in subsequent capsules, but I think would you say that, I mean, if you are serious about improving the way you look, even though it shouldn't be necessarily the biggest part of your training, mobility and activation should still be tools that you are looking to integrate in your training program.
Definitely.
So how long are we talking about per session?
10 minutes in the warm-up.
Well, does it have to be in the
specific.
session, or can you do it at home and spare time, or is it
The best is to do it at home every day. So we're talking about frequency and repetition. If you really want an adaptation, as opposed to just a temporary response from doing it just in the warm-up, then do it every day, right? And then in the warm-up, do what you need to do for that day. If it's a pressing session, do what's related to pressing. If it's a pulling session, do what's related to pulling, right?
It would be a really cool article in the future